There's something that happens inside you the moment you spot a dog across the street, and you already know exactly what it is. That pull, that almost embarrassing urge to dart through traffic just to pet a stranger's golden retriever. If you've ever felt that, then this is for you. Not dog people as a broad category, but you, the person who quietly tracks where the dog goes the second it walks into a room. Who notices when it settles near you and feels, for a brief second, like that means something special. The one who has probably said things out loud to a dog that you've never quite managed to say to another person. That's worth taking a deeper look at. So let's begin somewhere you might not expect in a piece about dogs with yourself. Specifically, who you were before you ever loved one. People who form deep attachments to dogs often share something in their emotional history. And it's not that they grew up with a perfect childhood and a loyal golden retriever by the fireplace. It's almost the opposite. Attachment researchers have long noticed that people who crave non-judgmental relationships, the kind dogs give so freely, frequently grew up in environments where love felt conditional. Affection came with fine print. You had to earn the space you occupied. That's not a universal rule, and it's not a diagnosis. It's simply a pattern that quietly shows up again and again in the backgrounds of those who love animals with unusual intensity. A dog doesn't do that. A dog has never once looked at you and thought, you could be doing better. And somewhere deep in your nervous system, that registers as something close to sacred. Of course, not everyone needs a difficult backstory to love dogs this deeply. For many people, the love is simply pure and open. Think about what it actually takes to commit to a dog fully. You're not entering a relationship blindly. You understand the terms. You know the lifespan. And you say yes anyway. In that quiet agreement, you end up with something rare. A best friend who asks for almost nothing and gives back everything. There's something in certain people that doesn't shrink from loving something temporary. In fact, they lean in. Some people do this 4 or 5 times across a lifetime. Each dog distinct. Each one loved completely on its own terms. It's a form of courage most people don't even have a name for. And what's fascinating is that research on pet attachment doesn't paint just one clean picture. Some studies show that people with anxious or insecure attachment styles, those for whom human relationships have felt unpredictable or unsafe, often form especially strong bonds with dogs, because the relationship feels stable and legible. A dog is consistent in ways people sometimes aren't. It doesn't shift on you, depending on the day. For a nervous system that has spent years bracing for unpredictability, that steadiness lands somewhere much deeper than simple comfort. There's one study in particular worth knowing about, published in Science in 2015 by Nagasawa and colleagues. When a dog and its owner gaze into each other's eyes, both brains release oxytocin, the same hormone that bonds a mother to her baby, just from a look. What that really means is, your dog isn't just receiving your love. It's producing it in you. Every time it looks at you, something real and chemical is happening in your brain that wouldn't happen otherwise. You're not only loving them, they are actively making you feel love. That's more than poetic. It's biology. Dog people also tend to be unusually good at reading nonverbal cues, and that's no coincidence. Living closely with a dog means you've spent years learning to interpret a creature that communicates entirely without words. You've had to pay attention in a way most people simply haven't been asked to. That sustained attention to subtle signals doesn't stay limited to your dog. It transfers. Your brain gets better at what you practice, and you've been practicing reading emotional states that aren't spelled out for you. Some personality research finds dog owners scoring higher on empathy measures, though researchers are still debating whether that's a cause or an effect of the relationship. What's less debated is the attentiveness. Spending years responsible for a being that can't self-report tends to sharpen you in quiet but powerful ways. Now, something a little more delicate that deserves to be said honestly. Some people love dogs because dogs are easier, and that's okay. Oh, okay. We've built a cultural story that loving animals is always noble, always pure, always a sign of great character. Sometimes it is. But sometimes a person turns to dogs because the terms of that relationship feel cleaner and safer. Dogs don't gaslight you. They don't go cold for reasons they refuse to explain. They don't make you feel crazy for needing reassurance. If you've ever looked at your dog and thought, "You're the only one who really gets me," that's not entirely a compliment to the dog. It's also a quiet signal that something in your human relationships has made closeness feel dangerous. The people who get the most value from this awareness are those who get curious about it instead of just comfortable in it. They notice what the dog is giving them and gently ask, "Why can't I find this with people? Why do I breathe easier here? What would it actually take for a person to make me feel this safe?" The dog becomes a surprisingly useful mirror. There is a specific kind of loneliness that dog lovers understand better than most. It's not the usual kind. It's the loneliness of being misunderstood, of sitting in a room full of people and still feeling unseen. Dog people know that feeling intimately, which is exactly why being fully known by an animal hits so differently. An animal that has watched you cry on the bathroom floor, seen you eat cereal for dinner 3 nights in a row, witnessed you at your least composed, and stayed anyway. The dog may be the only one who has seen the unedited version of you, and still chose to stay in the room. And maybe that's why losing one wrecks you in a way you weren't fully prepared for. You're not just losing a pet, you're losing the one who knew you without needing you to perform. That kind of loss doesn't really have a comparison. People who love dogs deeply are not a niche group. They're simply people who have tasted a kind of love without conditions attached and realized how rare it actually is.